seconds and counting.
Welcome back to another video, and we're talking about why the Rockets should take Jalen Green from the G League Ignite with the second overall pick in the NBA draft. Now, a few days ago, we used to put out a poll asking you guys who we should take second overall, and you guys answered with a resounding majority saying Jalen Green, 70% out of the around 400 votes. And so, by, in a way, popular demand, we will cover Jalen Green and why we should take him at the second overall pick. Now, Jalen Green is another one of those top 5 prospects who most people have as being generational type talents, and Jalen Green is in that group with good reason. One of the best scorers in this draft class, if not the best scorer in this draft class, averaged 18 points per game in the G League on very, very efficient splits for a guy who hasn't played in the NBA yet, with 46% from the field, 37% from 3 on almost 6 attempts a game as well, and 83% from the free throw line. And the scoring that Jalen Green brings is one of the biggest reasons why he should be the pick for the Houston Rockets, especially given our scoring issues that we experienced in the prior season.
Right. When we're thinking about scoring for the Rockets, I mean, Rockets don't really have that, that number one scoring kind of guy who can just, take over whenever it's clutch time in the fourth quarter. Typically, the Rockets, what we saw throughout the regular season was we would start off really well, play very well defensively, and even score the ball pretty well on the offensive side for the first 3 quarters. But when it came into the fourth quarter, and defenses would step up and it would get a little bit more physical, the Rockets would just pretty much straight up fall apart on the offensive end. I'm particularly reminded of that one game against the Minnesota Timberwolves where in the final 7.5 minutes, the Rockets did not make a single shot and basically just allowed the Timberwolves to go on a 22-0 run. And, we ended up losing that game. And the main reason for that was we didn't really have a bona fide, shot creator, shot maker. We had John Wall, he was just having an off game, taking a bunch of, bad shots. But when it comes to if the Rockets can draft a player like Jalen Green, who he's a scorer, he's a gifted scorer. There's no doubt about it. He's going to come in and in his rookie year, he's going to average, at least 20 points a game, similarly to how Anthony Edwards did for the Minnesota Timberwolves. There's no doubt about it that he could definitely bring that scoring punch and, solve that issue for the Rockets.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that scoring ability, it's not just one area. He can get a bucket anywhere. He can get a bucket at the rim, he can get a bucket in the paint, he can get a bucket in the mid-range, and he can also score from beyond the 3-point line at a very high level as well. And the fact that he's been able to do that already at just 19 years old, playing next to NBA level talent, is very, very commendable. And I think it is something that makes him kind of stand out from the other prospects who they've been playing against college players, whereas Jalen Green has been getting baskets at a very, very high level next to NBA talent, borderline NBA talent in the G League. And I think that's what really sets him apart from the other prospects who he's been able to score incredibly well while also playing next to NBA level talent. One of the things that he does do very well that I don't think gets enough recognition is his efficiency. Averaged 61% true shooting in the G League in his 15 games that he played there, and it just shows that even next to NBA talent, Jalen Green has the ability to score and score efficiently, which is one of the biggest things that people look for in their draft prospects, especially nowadays where efficiency and the percentages are one of the biggest things that people look at when drafting their prospects. And with Jalen Green, his scoring is also combined with elite athleticism. One of the most explosive players in this draft class, if not the most explosive. Zach LaVine is a guy who you could think about him as a guy who's an elite scorer while also being extremely athletic. Again, we all know how explosive Zach LaVine is, and Jalen Green has that type of athleticism to match along with elite scoring ability. And I think Zach LaVine is probably one of the most pinpoint comparisons as far as both their play style and also their athleticism and all of it. I think really does compare to Zach LaVine.
Right. And yeah, that Zach Levine pretty much is the perfect comparison for Jalen Green. A lot of people have also said he's like Bradley Beal, just with Zach Levine's legs, which just really shows that he does have the potential to be a more gifted scorer and a more efficient scorer than Zach Levine. As when you think of his Zach Levine's game, it's pretty much mainly in the mid range and from deep, whereas Jalen Green in just the G League has shown, he has a very like he has a very like big bag where with a bunch of moves, post fades, whatever it takes to get the ball in the basket against like tough defenses. He knows how to get the ball in the basket. And yeah, his explosive athleticism is just a cherry on top for his, what he can do when it comes to like, he can get to the rim, posterize pretty much anyone, draw fouls, whatever it needs to be done. His explosive athleticism is also something that can definitely get him there. But actually, the main thing that I feel like really puts him over other people in this draft is his work ethic. He was quoted with saying, "I believe I should be the first overall pick because I work a lot harder than most of the guys in my class." And honestly, it's been shown. He's decided to take the harder way, rather than going to college, he put a lot of like he trusted himself and he put himself out there, went decided to skip college, go straight to the G League and play against again like NBA tier level defense and all. So the fact that he was able to put that trust in himself, work on himself, and be efficient, and also do his thing as just a 19-year-old, it really shows how much he can really bring, not only by himself, but also, in the locker room when it comes to like, motivating other guys out there because he can motivate himself to improve himself. And honestly, that's something that every young person really needs to have.
With Jalen Green, again, his on court and his off court personalities, I think, do mesh really well with the Houston Rockets. Again, like you said, his locker room presence is very positive. We've heard nothing but good things from Jalen Green's teammates as far as number one, how they think of him on the court, and also how he is off the court as well. He's one of the best teammates that they've had, from their words. He's been one of their best teammates, not just in his play on the court, which we all know of, but also in his off court personality and just how he meshes with his teammates and how he talks to them and how um, he treats them is very commendable and something that every single one of his G League teammates has noted. And it's very important because when you draft a player, you want to make sure that as you develop him, he's going to mesh well with the rest of your players. And when you have guys like Kevin Porter Jr., Christian Wood, and all of these guys with chips on their shoulders and guys who are here to work, you want a person who's going to mesh well with that culture. You want a guy who's going to treat them well and just be happy to be a part of the team and really just be a good presence in the locker room and make sure that he meshes well and just treats everyone well and contributes to that team culture. And Jalen Green definitely brings that. Again, if you've been looking on social media over the past few days, you know that Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, they have been friends for a while now. Of course, they played against each other in the G League while Kevin Porter Jr. was in that little G League stint before he joined the Rockets. And clearly that friendship has developed. And I think it will play a part as to the influencing who we take second overall. Kevin Porter Jr. and his relationship that he has with Jalen Green will definitely influence Jalen Green and whether or not he comes here. And I think there is mutual interest as well. Jalen Green clearly seems interested to want to come to Houston. And if that interest is mutual, I think that off court fit will also be huge as far as how well Jalen Green does play for us if he does have an established prior friendship with Kevin Porter Jr. and all the other Rockets as well. Looking at Jalen Green's weaknesses, he is not the best defender. Again, this is something that every scouting report has noticed. Jalen Green is not the best defender, but he definitely has the ability to improve. Again, he is only 19 years old, and we've seen defenses improve before. As far as our young players, Christian Wood has developed as a defender. Kevin Porter Jr. has developed as a defender, and if we surround him with the right pieces defensively, we already have KJ and Jay Sean Tate. I think if we draft or sign a few more defensive players, I think we can help sort of hide Jalen Green from being a liability on the defensive side of the ball while he improves. And then hopefully over his first few years, if we do draft him, he develops into maybe an average defender so that he's not a liability on the defensive side of the ball. But again, his lack of defense is probably his biggest weakness. And I think that is a pretty good thing for him because it shows that he's a very all around player on the offensive side of the ball, but it is the defense that is concerning for Jalen Green.
Right, right. And the saying, defense wins championships. But then again, there's also not we can't really like fear that he's just gonna become a, straight up negative liability and like he's unable to be played when it comes to like the big time moments in the game. No, he's not the best defender right now. But then again, remember guys, he's only 19 years old. He's not expected to reach his prime till at least like 25. So he has all this time to work on his defense, get mentored by, good defensive guards. Like we have John Wall on our team, who was uh all defensive player before his injuries and definitely still knows that, that has that work ethic, has that mentality, has that, just that knowledge of where to be and how to, really show his defensive presence on the court. Under the mentorship of John Wall and even just other great defenders on our team, like a Jay Sean Tate or even like a Avery Bradley, if the Rockets decide to bring him back, you know, Jalen Green can definitely improve on that side of the ball, and also he can improve on his playmaking. He isn't necessarily going to be put out there as the point guard and going to be like, hey, you have to give us like 8 assists a game. No, he's not. He's not put in that position. But I feel like Jalen Green has the potential to become a combo guard, similarly to how Shea Gilgeous-Alexander did under the mentorship of Chris Paul in Oklahoma City, where he started off as, solely a shooting guard and maybe even a small forward. But, after learning all these playmaking, ball handling abilities from Chris Paul, he is now playing as a combo guard, specifically at the point guard and shooting guard positions. And, with besides Kevin Porter Jr., having them in the backcourt, having two people in our backcourt who can, play make, ball handle really well, it only makes our offense much, much more efficient. And honestly, it just makes Silas's offensive planning a lot easier, and it makes everything just a lot smoother.
Yes, and again, that playmaking issue that we have been looking at with Jalen Green is something that can be improved. He showed flashes of his playmaking ability in the G League, and putting him next to one of the best playmakers in the league in John Wall is only bound to help him. Again, we saw how Kevin Porter Jr. took strides as a playmaker in his half a season or so with us, and there's no reason to not believe that Jalen Green can do the same. Right, with a guy like John Wall on the team, he's bound to make strides, get some mentorship. I think John Wall is probably one of the top 5 players to be mentored by as far as his playmaking ability. Again, we saw the effect that Chris Paul had on Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as a playmaker. Not saying that John Wall is on the same level of Chris Paul or anything like that, but it's a similar effect as to what can happen with Jalen Green when you put him next to an all NBA type of playmaker with John Wall. I think he's bound to take a leap forward in his playmaking. I doubt that he'll ever be like an elite playmaker in the league, but there's no reason to believe he can't be an above average playmaker. At least average maybe like 5, 6 assists per game as a secondary playmaker behind Kevin Porter Jr. I think that's definitely something that I could see Jalen Green developing to if he does, spend time working with John Wall on developing his playmaking and passing abilities. And I think the last real weakness, this isn't really anything major for Kevin Porter Jr. That's like an alarming sign for him as to like why you shouldn't draft him or anything like that. This is just a um, little caveat or a little nagging issue that I think he can definitely work out pretty quickly, and that is his drawing fouls. He only averaged 2.3 free throw attempts a game, which is kind of concerning when you consider his play style. He's a guy who does get to the rim a lot. He does have to finish a lot through contact, and so I think if Jalen Green can improve his ability to draw fouls, his scoring is going to go way up. Right now, he averaged Um, he averaged 18 points per game in the G League, and he averaged 2.3 free throw attempts a game. He shot them at an 83% clip. If he can get to a point where he can average like 10 free throw attempts a game, that in itself puts his scoring up by like what 8 points per game, like 6 points per game, and that in itself gets him to a point where he's one of the best scorers in the league, points per game wise, where he'd be at like 24, 25 points per game. If Jalen Green can get to the line a lot more, this is one of the smaller things, but if Jalen Green can get himself to the line more as his career develops as an NBA player, I think he has potential to be one of the top scorers in the NBA once he does hit that prime.
Right, and there's no doubt about it. I feel like, drawing fouls is definitely something almost any player can learn. You can just see examples like Trey Young. He's pretty much perfected it, and he's only in his, what, third, fourth year of the league. So it's really just, it's a small thing, but if you can really get it, and you can, contort your body in midair, have it seem like like the foul is a lot harder than it actually was, then, and he's already a great free throw shooter, as you see. I know it was a small margin, it's very small volume, but he has been hitting his free throws very well. So, just by adding this to his bag of, moves and scoring ability, this would just make him a more efficient scorer and, give him another threat on offense.
Exactly. And we've seen how much the drawing fouls can advance a player in his scoring. We saw with Embiid this season. Um, he's always been a little bit notorious for his foul drawing, but I think the level that he did it this year was absolutely major in his scoring boost and why he was one of the top scorers in the NBA. Again, we saw how much it improved and advanced James Harden and his scoring. He was averaging like 36 points per game. Not to take away from his scoring ability, obviously, but he was averaging a lot of free throw attempts, and that was the main reason why he averaged so many points per game. If you look at just about every top scorer in the NBA right now, whether it be Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, all of these guys get to the line at a decent clip and knock them down at a pretty good rate. If Jalen Green can do that, he has all the tools in his bag already to be a top scorer. I think drawing fouls is one of those things that comes with experience, and I think if he can get that in his tool bag as well, I don't think there's many things that's going to stop him from being a top five scorer in the NBA once he does reach his peak. And that'll just about do it for this video. Again, let us know down in the comment section if you want Jalen Green with that second overall pick or if you'd rather have Evan Mobley. We'll discuss about it there. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. I'm Joel, and I was joined here today by DJ. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.